In today's show, after most of the week off, the Blazers are back on the court, and they might be a whole lot healthier. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, so make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, the Blazers, after the whole dang week off, are finally back in action. They play the Spurs on Friday. They travel to Phoenix on Sunday. Basketball is back again. They are playing the softest portion of their schedule in terms of density of games, just 4 games across 12 days. So an interesting section of the December schedule, thanks in part to the in-season tournament. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the injury report. Friday night, they're maybe going to get some folks back, some taller folks. DeAndre Ayton joins a list of folks who are questionable. For some, questionable is bad. For others, it's good. We'll talk about who is and is not on the injury reports. Plus, we'll talk about who we want to see as this team gets healthier. What are the things when you have to make a decision with the full squad? What are the things that the Blazers should prioritize, or at least one podcaster hopes we see more of? And then finally, I want to close the show talking about the coaching staff during this strange stretch. You do not get a lot of opportunities to practice as much as the Blazers are going to be able to practice this week and next combined. This is an interesting part of the schedule, and if there is a chance to sort of get everything a little more organized, this is it. We'll talk about that to close the show. Let's start with the injury reports. It feels good to give an injury update that isn't like, oh, he's expected to miss. It's like, it's Donovan Clingan, along with Rob Williams, along with DeAndre Ayton, are all listed as questionable on the injury report. Duop Reith is out, still dealing with a low back strain. Matisse Thybulle obviously not cleared to play, and the two-way guys are out. However, I guess Taze Moore's not listed on the injury report. Maybe Taze will be in the building and dressed out. DeAndre Ayton's questionable with an illness, according to the Blazers' official injury report. They released at a 5:30 p.m. window today on Thursday. You're listening to Friday, December 13th show. So DeAndre Ayton is sick. It's hard to know what his availability will be, but it does sound like Rob Williams is fairly likely to play Friday or Sunday, and he's getting close. And Donovan Clingan, I think that questionable tag is a he's going to play tag. Typically, when you've been listed as out and then finally upgraded to questionable, it's a good sign. Clingan has practiced all week. Practice Tuesday, practice Wednesday. He's a full participant in practice Thursday, according to Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report. So, Chauncey Billups told reporters he did it. He was a full participant. You fully participate the day before a game coming off an injury, you're going to play. Unless something bad happens, you're going to play, right? This would be like a pre-game setback type of thing if he were not to play. Every single sign points to Donovan Clingan being back on the court and playing basketball. That's awesome. Can't wait to see him. I'm excited to see that. It's a little trickier for Rob Williams. According to Highkin's reporting at the Rose Garden Report, a Substack you can subscribe to on the app or on the website, Rob has one more test to go through. He has to go through a computer-based test, so I'm sort of some sort of cognitive test to be able to return. But the way Chauncey Billups told reporters, it sounds like Rob just has to clear that hurdle and then he played. He was a participant in practice today, and Chauncey Billups said something like, if they tell me at 6:57 that Rob's available to play for 7 o'clock, he'll be in the lineup, right? So Rob's going to play if he passes this one more hurdle. And Rob spoke to reporters today, which I think is a good sign, because if it was a little more dicier, maybe they would have been a little stingier with his access and say, well, Rob will talk tomorrow. But I think it's a good sign. I would say things point towards Rob playing Friday, but he obviously has something very specific he has to get through, as opposed to Clingan, who just has to wake up and get to the gym, baby, and then you'll be there. And DA, we don't know. So that's all good news. What it means is that this team is about as healthy as they've been all year long. If everybody were to play tomorrow except for Matisse Thybulle, and I guess like Duapre's not available, but if all the other centers are healthy, he's just like deep insurance depth regardless. But this is as close to as healthy as they've been all season long, which means that they have to kind of make tough decisions. And that's what I want. I think there are some folks, and maybe the Blazers will end up making some decisions like this where they're like hyper cautious with injuries, right? To like make it easier for guys to play and not play and all that. But like, I don't buy any of the conspiracy nonsense that some fans have floated about how the Blazers have handled injuries this year. I just think they're bad at communicating to the public and that sometimes guys get injured. And I think that combination mixed with like some speculation leads to people thinking that there's some nonsense going on. I don't think there's been any tomfoolery necessarily. I think there's been a mixture of maybe being conservative and not conservative enough. In fact, so I don't think there's any consistent through line. But I don't want to see the Blazers like have to hold someone out in order to play this person. I want to see them figured out with a full squad. The test of this team, if you choose to bring back this roster, the test of this team should be how to optimize that roster, both for winning a basketball game and for your larger goals as an organization. So I want to see everybody healthy, and I want to see them have to make those tough decisions. I want to see them have to figure out how to juggle a 3-center lineup in which all those centers deserve to play and are talented enough to play, but like aren't a good fit on the court together necessarily. I want like make some tough decisions. Let's see what it looks like. And see what the team like truly prioritizes. I want to see it. With the guards healthy and the emergence of Delano Banton this year, who looks like has probably been the Blazers' best guard in terms of like overall impact. Let's see the tough decisions. And as after a slow start to his Blazer campaign, Denny Avdia being healthy and playing a lot better, along with Tumani and Jeremy Grant, it's like, let's see the tough decisions. How do you balance it? Let's talk about that more a little bit later in the show, but that's what I'm excited to see. There's also some specific stuff I'm excited to see now that it sounds like Donovan Clingan is back. Let's talk about that in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you about Robinhood. You do not need the silver spoon. With Robinhood Gold, you will be able to eat up the financial favors of the 1% regardless. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of the high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are available now for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right. So what I want to see now that the squad is healthy. One, I want to see them have to make tough decisions. I want to see them have to face what they built. Not because I wish ill upon them, but because this was the plan. This was the roster they were supposed to have, and then they have a vision from what this roster is now to what it becomes. So I don't want any nefarious, this dude's not available, so we've got minutes for Donovan Clingan, or this guy's not available, Denny's going to play 35 minutes. I want to see them implement it in the game. But there's also some specific stuffs. There's some specific stuffs I want to see. One of those specific stuffs, as long as we're spamming S words, Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. I want to see those two dudes play together. They have played, because Shaedon was out to begin the season, and then because of how they've kind of handled the rotation a little bit, those dudes haven't played a ton together. Played a little bit, but they haven't played a ton together. And, obviously Scoot missed some time, missed like a week with various things. So, we've seen 277 possessions with them, according to Clean the Glass, non-garbage time possessions. That's not enough to mean anything. Kevin Pelton wrote a story about lineup data for two-man lineup data, it's probably always too noisy for like any two gentlemen picking out of a lineup together, any two gentlemen to be meaningful unless you're talking like 3 seasons worth of numbers. Like I just don't think any individual season for two-man lineup data I think it's probably too many variables for it to be meaningful. But Kevin Pelton of ESPN once wrote a story, and I couldn't find it because ESPN's website is horrendous for searching, and they don't even have an author page. The modern internet is horrendous. It's just so bad for finding things that were written during the blogging heyday. But Pelton wrote a story back in the day that was included data on like how many minutes you'd have to play together, how many possessions you'd have to play together for like 5-man lineup data to normalize and be like actually predictive. And it was north of 500. It was at least 500 possessions together. So like while Scoot and Shea's like 2-man grouping what might never be useful, they haven't even played like enough together with any, obviously they haven't played a single 5-man pairing, but they haven't played even not just the 2 of them for these numbers to be meaningful. But so far, it's like the offense with them 2 together on the court and without Anthony Simons out there, that's the 277 possessions I'm looking at. I'm not saying just the 2 of them period, but the 2 of them without Ant, so them as the 2 guards. The offense has been really bad. Defense has been okay, not great, but okay, but the offense has been really bad. Just it's too small of a sample size to really feel like it's meaningful in some way, but I think it's noteworthy that duo hasn't quite figured it out yet, and I want to see them figured out. I want to see them figured out on the fly. I want to see them thrown into games, prioritize getting them minutes, those 2 gentlemen on the floor together without Anthony Simons. You're not playing these weird 3-guard lineups, which they did a little bit in the last game, but like you're healthy, you got everybody. Play those 2 guys. Make lineup decisions and rotation decisions to get those 2 gentlemen together and see what you have. I really am ready for it. And I'm really ready for it, particularly in light of like you're not going to go small. You're not going to play as much small ball because you have 3 centers who are going to play now. You're not going to you're going to the rotation is going to have to be more concise and more like specifically planned because it's just not like dictated to you by health in the way that when you're a little bit shorthanded, it gets dictated to you by health. Speaking of them 2 playing together, at the beginning of the year, I did what's called my disappearing lineup trick, which will eventually just be called my most intriguing lineup. But I've made it disappear the last few years. If you're an everyday listener, you know that for the last 4 seasons, this is the 5th time I've done it, but the last 4 seasons, I've picked my most intriguing lineup at the beginning of the season, and those lineups have played total 7 minutes together across 4 seasons. That's wild. Well, my most intriguing lineup this season was Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Toumani Camara, Deni Avdija, and Donovan Clingan. Basically, the Blazers' young core, dudes under 25, they under contract that I want to see hoop together. So far, they've the disappearing lineup played 9 minutes together. So far, my intriguing lineup has played 7 total minutes together, according to NBA.com. So that's Scoot, Shea, 2, Denny, and DC. Donovan Clingan played 7 total minutes across 2 games, 14 possessions, according to Cleaning the Glass. They just shot bricks. They just have not been able to score. Obviously, the smallest of small sample sizes, 7 total minutes during an NBA season, but 1 of 11 in those 7 minutes, and 0 of 7 from 3. They've been outscored 15-6 in those 7 minutes. Let's see it. Let's see that group play. That's the future. This is what I'm excited about when everybody's healthy. Making decisions that allows the vision of the franchise, right? Like the larger vision of the franchise. So that's the front office. They're not going to be involved in game day decisions. Joe Cronin has said that he won't meddle in those game day decisions, and he shouldn't. That's like unhealthy for the GM to being like, "Hi, yes, you need to play Noah Vonleh 1,200 minutes this year." Certainly, that's never happened in the past, and that's just a random example, not a very specific thing that once happened to the Portland Trail Blazers. But like, you shouldn't meddle in the day-to-day stuff, right? Like you got to let the coach, got to let the players play. I think it's in some ways the front office like makes roster decisions that inform what the coach can choose. But when this group's a little bit healthy, and obviously the coach is going to make some decisions, but Scoot and Shea are the future in theory, right? Unless they aren't. But the way you find that out is by playing them together. Deni Avdija is 23, right? Under contract for 3 seasons after this one. They traded a couple first-round picks for him. You hope he's part of the future. Toumani Camara is probably the best, single player they've found in terms of like relative to his draft stock and his production on the court. Like he's the best find they've had. Get him out there and play. And DC looks like one of the best rookies in this class. He's probably the Blazers' best lottery draft pick in terms of early production in his career. Is the best Blazers lottery draft pick in terms of early production early in his career. He's certainly better than Scoot was as a rookie, and Shaedon Sharpe took a little while to get going his rookie season as well. He's really good at the very end. Let those dudes play. Let them play. Let them play. My bold prediction coming into the season was that group would have one singular game in which they played more minutes than all of my other disappearing lineups combined. So we needed them to play about 9.5 minutes together. That's a long stretch for any one lineup. That's a very bold prediction. We'd probably need to like really specific injuries for it to go down that way. But let's see it a little bit more. We've seen it twice to begin this season. Let's see it a little bit more. It's like a very small sample and it hasn't been good. So it's like, yeah, okay, maybe get a sub in there. They're shooting bricks. But like, give it a chance. Be specific about the way you do things. Speaking of specificity and the way you do things, this is a strange stretch of the Blazers schedule. So while I'm excited to see the youngsters, right? To some extent, I'm excited to see Anthony Simons play a little bit better. I know he is capable of being better than he has been. He obviously has warts and challenges, right? Like, I'm not trying to sell you on anything but like, he's a career 38% three-point shooter who's shooting 32% from three. What if he just shot 36% from three? What if he was just a league average three-point shooter? Like, what if he just made a league average number of three-pointers? Some of that is maybe like how he gets them and how he chooses to take them, right? But like, I'm excited to see that a little bit. One of the things I'm excited is like my belief is that while DeAndre Ayton is the best individual offensive player among the Blazers centers, he is not the best player for the Blazers offense. I think Rob Williams is better for the Blazers offense. I think maybe even Donovan Clingan could be, although a little further away because not as polished as in terms of knowing what he does and does well like Rob is. But like, I would love to be wrong. I think one of the most interesting things about doing this job and talking into a microphone every day is like, I have my beliefs. I share them very publicly here, right? Like I tell you, here's what I think. I'll repeat it maybe 3 times in a week. I repeat myself fairly often in the show on purpose. I want to tell you what I think and why I think it. I would love to find out I'm wrong by DeAndre Ayton playing really well, right? Like that would be like, to me, that's an interesting thing. Okay, why has it worked, right? Like learning why you were incorrect about stuff is always fascinating. That I think that's the most interesting part of watching a basketball team, particularly a bad basketball team, up close every day, right? Is figuring out stuff you missed on in either direction. It's more fun when you missed in the positive. You thought they were going to be worse than they are, but sometimes you have to learn in the negative as well. So I'm excited to watch, I'm excited to watch this stuff, right? But I also think this is such a strange time for the Blazers' schedule with just 4 games in 12 days. This is a big time for the Blazers coaching staff to prove that they can like put the plan into place. This is the longest stretch of time the Blazers are going to have off, like maybe not cumulative exactly, but like this is the lightest part of the Blazers schedule until the All-Star break. It's going to get harder, and you are going to have a lot less practice time for the remainder of the season. This is a unique stretch of the schedule, and if the Blazers coaching staff is ever going to put their imprint on what and how they want this team to execute, it's going to be right now. Let's talk about that soft schedule and kind of what I mean by that, by executing in the third segment. Join me on the other side. First, though, I want to tell you about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook and an official sports betting partner of the NFL that wants you to get out there and tackle all the NFL action right now because new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Plus, the FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. I'm recording this during a very low-scoring Niners-Rams Thursday night football game. And if you get a hunch while you're watching, should you be watching more football games in the future that have more points? Well, you can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So this is a weird stretch for the Blazers schedule. They played Sunday, December 8th, against the Lakers in LA. Then they came back, had Monday off, Tuesday off, Wednesday off, Thursday off, play Friday. at home. So they've been home. They don't have a travel day in there. They have four legitimate practice days, although I'm not 100% sure they did a full practice on Monday. But regardless, 3 consecutive days to be able to get out there and for real deal Holyfield practice. That's pretty rare in the NBA. Pretty rare. You just don't have practice time. And in kind of the way that modern sports medicine has gone, teams just don't practice like they used to. They just straight up do not get out there and have like physical, everybody out on the court practices. It is not uncommon in NBA circles to see high-minute veterans, particularly on really good teams, straight up just not participate in practice because what the sports science shows is like just get them off their feet. The most important thing they can do is sit still on down days because you're probably not supposed to play 100 basketball games during a 7-month stretch. But it's unique for the Blazers. They get all this time off, right? They play Friday against the Spurs. They play Sunday against the Suns in Phoenix. Then they're back here, Monday off, Tuesday off, Wednesday off, and then they play again Thursday against the Nuggets. That is a lot of downtime. A lot of downtime. You get four off days this week and consecutive off days this week, 3 consecutive off days next week. That is very rare in the NBA. Like I said, this would be the most downtime they have until the All-Star break. For instance, so this is 4 games in 12 days with all those consecutive days off in a row. In early January, from January 2nd to January 11th, the Blazers will play 6 games in 6 cities during a 10-day stretch. That's a little different than 4 games in 12 days with 7 off days at home. 6 games in 6 cities in 10 days. Yikes, right? Like the schedule gets unrelenting and then it doesn't stop. The longest stretch of the NBA season, in my opinion, I've done this a long time. I've felt the rhythms of the league. The longest stretch of the NBA season is Christmas to the All-Star break. That is where it gets tough. Obviously, there's that post-All-Star break surge, but some teams are gearing up and getting ready for the playoffs. Some teams are gearing up to go on vacation. It feels a little different. It might be a little more grueling for the bad teams, but it's like this is the longest stretch of the season in terms of like no time to like sit still, and it feels long. You're hitting the 40-game mark and the 50-game mark, and you're like, okay, we've been at this a long time. This is the grueling stretch. This is when the marathon sets in. And when the marathon sets in, this is where coaching and like getting a dialed plan separates yourself. You can't fake it anymore. The sample sizes are too big. The games come relentlessly. It's a chance for, talent is going to win in this league. I'm a big believer in players play. Let me give you an example of this. Earlier this week, the Chauncey Billups was asked by reporters at practice kind of like, what's the focus been? And some of it, he said, like, just our decision-making driving to the rim. And I thought that was a really interesting thing for him to say because I know that some fans get, I think it's just kind of like, people see stuff and they get mad about it and they can't, and maybe it gets baked into your brain and you stop seeing the other things. But like people are mad about the 3-point shooting, but I think the twos have been much more of a problem. When they lost that game to the Utah Jazz, they lost by 40, right? They got walloped. Embarrassing loss. Blazers and Jazz both hit 14 threes in that game. The Jazz turned the ball over 3 more times than the Blazers. The Blazers won the turnover battle and had an equal number of threes in a NBA game that happened in the year 2024, and they lost by 42. The Jazz made 16 more 2-pointers. 16 more 2-pointers. What Chauncey Billups talked about is like, he's wants his team to go into the paint with a plan. Stop driving into arms, driving into traffic, attacking with your head down, taking bad shots, taking bad twos because you want to be aggressive. Because being aggressive without, having the sort of craft to get good shots off, you're just creating tough shots. And like, while some people believe this, it's very much the opposite. When you miss layups, you give up transition points. Missing threes does not give up transition points. I mean, it can, but typically if you take 3-pointers, the floor is a little more balanced, and shoot, the dude who shot it is already 25 feet from the rim. He's closer to the basket. When you miss a layup, you are 94 feet from the rim, and sometimes the floor is unbalanced because you are, pick and roll. There's 2 guys crashing the glass, and the way Blazers play is a lot more crashing the glass. So, like, you give up, taking bad twos can lead to worse transition defense. And the numbers suggest that the Blazers are actually worse giving up transition points off live rebounds than they are off steals. So, like, there's something to the taking bad twos, right? So some of this is like, so Chauncey Billups mentions that in Tuesday's practice. You had Wednesday's practice, you had Thursday's practice. You play freaking Victor Wembanyama, who's not on the injury report for the Spurs on Friday. Can you implement the take smart twos, the not drive into like the swarming hell of Wemby? Can you implement that on Friday? Players play. Chauncey Billups can tell him what he wants to do, but players play. But it's like, can he create situations where either Wemby is out of the action or Wemby is, you're pulling him further from the rim. So if you are attacking, it's like the coach can set up the geometry a little bit. The decision-making in live speed is on the players. Players play. I think coaching is certainly a big part of it, but it is not the majority of it by any means. And it's not, in my eyes, not even a 50-50 split in terms of what happens within the game. I think coaches have a third of the responsibility falls on them. But if you lose that third, if you lose 30% of the game, 35% of the game, that's curtains for you. I know that a third is 33% repeating. Okay. Just because I rounded twice for no reason. But it's like, I want to see, I mentioned up top, it's like, I want to see the whole squad because I want to see the Blazers have to make decisions. One of those decisions is how do they utilize Deni Avdija? You had freaking 4 practice days this week. You're going to have 3 next week. To me, getting Deni on the ball more and moving Anthony Simons off the ball and seeing if you can unlock some of Ant's shooting woes by having him be the, not face pressure every time up the court, every single time down, because you're utilizing this extra ball handler that you were given in the offseason. That's a coaching thing. That's structure. Once the structure breaks down, players play. But like that, how do you initiate stuff? How do you intentionally go about getting shots? Like the beginning of the setup, a coach can dictate. A lot of it beyond that is the improvisation that makes basketball fun. How do you use Deni? How do you optimize the center lineups, right? Like who do you decide who closes games? We know who's going to start. It's going to be DeAndre Ayton if he's healthy. We kind of know the rotation a little bit, and when both of them have been healthy, we've seen Donovan Clingan and Rob Williams play together because it's kind of unavoidable on the second unit. It doesn't work, but like it is what it is. But like who closes games? Who closes games? Is it always DA based on status, or are there times when it's like clearly another direction because they've been better, or the matchup calls for it? You need size, you need defense, you need the Rob Williams passing and screen setting to help the offense type of thing. Like how do you optimize the centers? And if clearly the Rob and Donovan Clingan minutes don't work together, how do you play 3 centers and get them all on the court minutes that can help the team and help your developmental minutes? Because that's the whole plan. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I want to see Scoot and Shea play together. I want to see that lineup of the youngsters play together. I want to see the team, utilize the playmakers they have. Like even when Scoot plays with Anthony Simons, are there ways to, it's almost exclusively Ant off the ball, which it mostly has been, but even in more intentional ways to get Simons going as a shooting guard, right? As like the guy who comes off screens and shoots it, plays that are run for him, like old school shooting guard stuff. It informs your future decisions. If Anthony Simons looks better as a shooting guard, you say, okay, well, he's just not the thing we want him to be. He's not a lead guard, point guard, but he is this, right? And like maybe you already lean that way, but find it out find it out by structure. Let Deni be a primary operator and like have the better shooters around him. So put him in the lineups with Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons, but let him handle with those shooters. And Toumani Camara, who's maybe not at the volume, he's shooting less than 5 a game, but he's making them at above league average. Like get in there and utilize the weapons you have, the optionality you have in smart ways. And that's what I mean by getting on the same page with the larger goals of the organization. I don't think Joe Cronin should meddle, right? I don't think he should go into Chauncey Billups' office at the practice facility and say, hey, Chauncey, here's what you need to do. He very well might have done that. I doubt he does, based on what I know about their relationship. I doubt he would do that. I'm sure they talk all the time. But like, he doesn't say, do this. He says, they talk about the basketball and the team and how to utilize things and strategy, but not like, I'm going to need more minutes from Deni. And that's like one of the challenges. It's like Toumani and Jeremy Grant have earned the trust of Billups. Is there a thing that Deni can do to like cut in a little bit to their minutes when he's playing well, right? And I think the thing he can do is just like have the coach keep him on the court. I don't think it's not necessarily an earn it thing at this point. It's just a have it be given to you type of thing. But I don't think Cronin should meddle for even something as specific as like, hey, have Denny play 32 minutes. Don't hold him at 28 and Jeremy at 36. Like, come on, like meet him in the middle a little bit. So obviously, like Jeremy's like, it's just like they're different players, and I can understand the skill set thing. But get on the same page organizationally. Is the priority Scoot Henderson, Shane Sharp? Is that priority Donovan Clingan? Is that priority the futures of Toumani Camara and Denny Avdia? Is the priority, like what is the priority? Get on the same page. And if you can ever implement a more fluid idea of how we want to do things, how it all fits together, it's when you have 4 freaking days of practice, a couple games, and then 3 more full days of practice. You know, I guess next week, like, they're usually stayover teams. They'll be in Phoenix on Monday morning, and then they'll fly back. So maybe you only have 2 days, right? Maybe you only have Tuesday and Wednesday. But you would have a off day and then 2 full days of practice heading into another game. Like, this is such a big stretch for the coaching staff because you don't get these opportunities. This is your chance to do something in season. It is hard to implement stuff. If there was ever an opportunity, it's this 2-week stretch of the season. Fascinating. Really, really, I'm looking forward to it. The next time we chat, dear listeners, the Blazers will have played 2 games. Next time you hear my voice, because we're probably not going to chat. It's mostly me talking to you. Blazers will play 2 games. San Antonio Friday, Phoenix on Sunday. I will record a show that will be in your feeds probably late Sunday evening after the Suns game. And then we'll do 5 more next week. That interview that I've teased that didn't work out this week, it is in the works for next week. So look forward to that one. Going to see if I can get my man Rafael Barlow in an additional interview to join the program as well, although we are getting into a very busy time of year for many folks across the country, so we shall see. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you got podcasts, and also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.